Pleasant morning and hearty welcome to each one of you for second day's conference on practical issues and important aspects of charitable trust or institutions under the Income Tax Act 1961. Today, members, we are on second day and to start with, on the first technical session, the discussion is on practical issues under FCRA 2010, focusing on the foreign contribution regulation. We have with the CA Dr. N. Suresh to present on the topic, and I request our Bangalore branch chairman to kindly escort our speaker onto the desk. I also request the chairman to kindly welcome our speaker by presenting a floral bouquet. Round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, sir. To give a very brief introduction about Dr. N. Suresh, he is a graduate in commerce from Bangalore University and a fellow member of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He did his PhD on taxation system and practices in India, NGOs, NPOs, legal systems and practices in India. He has authored several books and articles on varied topics relating to corporate laws and taxation. His recent books are Practical Approach to Taxation and Accounting of Charitable Trust or Institution, 7th edition, Interesting Issues on Charitable Trust or Institution, NGOs and NPOs, 5th edition. And also he is a vocalist in Carnatic music and specializes in KP astrology. With this very brief introduction, I wholeheartedly welcome you for today's program, sir. Hearty welcome. I request Chairman to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you, Divya. Happy morning to each one of you. Friends, I'll take a minute of you to inform about some of the important upcoming program. So on 10th and 11th, we have organized a National Conference on Indirect Tax, GST. It's a 2 days conference. Even President of ICI is coming on the inauguration. I request all of you to register that program. Again, it is on a hybrid mode, both available on physical and virtual. Physical at FKCCI Auditorium on KG Road, Bangalore. So I request please look into bangaloreici.org and register for that program. Then another important matter I want to inform you all, friends, all of you aware, Chartered Accountants Benevolent Fund, CABF. This is the fund for the benefit of chartered accountants and their family members when they are in financial distress. This is the only fund available. So the contribution for that, we the members who are really fortunate definitely needs to do that. It is for our brothers and sisters in profession. In that regard, so because of since last one and a half years COVID, lot of demand, even from Bangalore, several recommendations I have signed and forwarded to CABF organization. So they have generously given the relief for many distressed family members of the CAs, and some CAs also got benefited from that. So in that regard, instead of spending from the interest amount, currently CABF is spending from the corpus amount itself. So the corpus is keep on depleting. In that regard, Bangalore branch created a our website. There is a line that contribution for CABF. I request all the members come forward and generously contribute for the CABF purpose. 10,000 is the life member contribution, and those who are interested to contribute more than 1 lakh, we have planning to put their name in the wall of Bangalore branch as a wall of fame. 1 lakh rupees and above, we wanted to put their name in the wall for permanently. So in that regard, I request all the members who are fortunate, who are blessed financially, request come forward and contribute generously for this noble cause. This is helping to our own friends, brothers and sisters in the profession. So this is the only agency or the organization which is helping us. It is of the ICI, part of ICI. So I request all of you to contribute generously for this CABF. That note, once again, hearty welcome to each one of you. So today, one more important, Dr. N. Suresh has written a book. I think it's a revised version on foreign contribution. This is the book, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010. He wanted to contribute this book to our library. So we are more than happy to accept this. I request, please come forward. Yeah, it is available in all leading law bookseller, Pulani and Pulani, Bharat, Ganesh Book House. I think in almost all book agencies sell that book. I request members can purchase that book. With that note, once again, hearty welcome to each one of you. Over to Dr. N. Suresh.
Good morning, everybody. So as our friend was requesting where the books are available. Now the revised edition of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, capturing the amendment made by the Amendment Act 2020 has been elaborately discussed in the 5th edition, published by Bharat House, New Delhi. These books are available on Amazon too. As well, you can buy with good discount directly from the publisher at New Delhi called Bharat House. And practical issues on the charitable accounting and taxation of NGOs, NPOs, etc. that you can also get from Amazon as well from the publisher. That is Bharat House. And if I can put a word, if the bulk can be purchased to give a fantastic discounts to all the members in this regard. And there's one more book called Interesting Issues on Charitable Trust or Institutions. I have captured about 2,000 questions, what could arise from the income tax point of view. Some deep thoughts has been given to capturing the issues that may come up. So it's very interesting so that you have questions and answers. You have a brief questions, you have a precise answer where you can easily go to the answers and find the solution to the issues that you have. So this is also will be published by the Bharat House. You can get that. So now we come back to the practical issues under the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. Now, to go back to the history, let me tell you the history of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. In 1969, then Union Home Minister has made an announcement in both the Houses of Parliament that the money flowing to India through the convertible foreign exchange is creating instability in the economic front as well as in the political front. It was a cause of concern to the government of India at that point of time. Then he suggested there is a need to bring a regulation to control the movements of funds into India. Then deliberation took place, and after the deliberation, in 1973, they brought Foreign Exchange Control Act of 1973. The Foreign Exchange Control Act of 1973 comes within the ambit of the Ministry of the Finance, regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. Then another legislation they brought called Foreign Exchange Management Act in 1976. The Foreign Exchange Management Act 1976 comes within the ambit of the Ministry of the Home Affairs under foreign contribution under FCRA department. So they create a separate cell called FCRA department within the Ministry of Home Affairs. The Reserve Bank of India on Foreign Exchange Foreign Control Regulation Act 1973, later it was repealed and brought Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999, where Reserve Bank of India controls, manages and monitors. Whereas the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act controls monitored by Ministry of Home Affairs through FCRA department. In 1976, they have brought this legislation. Then, due to the various circumstances as it was prevailing, a thought process began to rehaul the entire provisions of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. In 2006, deliberation took place. A draft bill was circulated. Again, the same efforts were made between 2009 and 10. And finally, in 2010, the old Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 1976 was repealed and brought a new act called Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010 and Foreign Contribution Regulation Rules 2011. This is how the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010 that they brought. Whom does this apply? This is very important. This is a very technical issue. See, the gamut of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, purely a technical matter. You must understand the genesis of the contents of each of the provisions of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So first and the foremost issue is to understand whom does this apply. For that to understand that, you have to go back to the Section 1. What Section 1 says? It applies to, firstly, it applies to the whole of India. The jurisdiction, the entire territorial region of India, this will apply, without exception to any states or the union territories. Secondly, it applies to the citizens of India in India and outside India. Don't think that only citizens who are sitting in India, this will apply, not outside. It applies citizens in India as well as the Indian citizens outside India. The second limb is it applies to associate branches of association or subsidiaries of in India, outside India, those companies which are incorporated in India. That means association incorporated in India, companies incorporated in India, they have a office or a branches outside India. Also, this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act will apply. It's a very broad definition that they have brought in. The question arises, suppose company incorporated outside India, on the contrary, having a branch office in India, whether FCRA Act will apply? Because here, if you look at the definition, the Foreign Contribution Act will apply those companies which are incorporated in India, having established branches or association outside India. On the contrary, those which are incorporated outside India, having an established branch office in India, whether FCRA will apply? Obviously, if you look at the definition as contained in section 1 is no. But perplexed issues have cropped up. What are those perplexed issues? To set up any branch offices or any association, those which are incorporated outside India, to establish an office or a site office in India, they have to take the prior approval from the Reserve Bank of India under the Foreign Exchange Management Act of 1999. So the Ministry of Finance works, Reserve Bank of India works on this. Whereas the Ministry of Women's Affairs Department have no say on this regard because it comes under a different platform, different functions altogether. The vacuum was created. Because in the past, in fact, we have got approval from the Reserve Bank of India to set up branch offices to carry out the charitable activities in India. But since it is a charitable activities, normally the FCRA, we have to look back to FCRA also too. But there was no provision to deal with this in this regard. There was big gap or a vacuum on this. Then what had happened? Deliberate discussion started within the ministries. Of course, even Reserve Bank of India, before it gives any permission to carry the charitable activities of the companies incorporated outside India to have established a branch office in India, normally they take the permission or approval from the different ministries working together. However, there are no specific provisions contained in this regard. Now, this has created a vacuum. How to deal with this vacuum? Then in 2019, February, the Reserve Bank of India has brought a circular. In that circular says, if you are a branch of a foreign company, if you are intent to do a charitable activities, charitable or religious activities, which are defined in the section 11 of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, then first you go to FCRA department, seek their approval, then come back to us, then we will give you permission to set up. That means first you have to approach them, take them approval, and then you have to file an application for seeking approval to set up branch office in India. How do I comply? To approach the Ministry of Home Affairs or FCRA, you have to upload an application. To upload an application, it asks you the bank account, FCRA bank account, because you are going to receive a convertible foreign exchange called foreign contribution. This foreign contribution, to credit to your account, you should have a specific designated bank account. How do I open the designated bank account? You have the life has not come into existence. Child is not born, but I have to open a bank account. Because Reserve Bank, unless the Reserve Bank of India gives a permission, you cannot approach the Register of Companies, Delhi and Haryana, for the registration as a foreign company. So first FCRA should give me permission. Then I have to go to Reserve Bank of India, Reserve Bank approval. Then I have to go to under the Companies Act, I have to register. But unless the Companies Act I register, then you will not be allowed by the bankers to set up a bank account. So therefore, there is another big vacuum. Now, the present position is, it is difficult for a branch office of a foreign company to set up in India. And we are expecting that the government of India will come back with some way forward by means of a circular or a notification. In other words to say, those incorporated in India, having outside India, all this will apply. And equally, government wants that incorporated outside India to carry any charitable activities in India need the approval. Secondly, what are the objects of this FCRA? Okay, you have brought such a law. What are those objects behind this FCRA? The FCRA Act is, see, they wanted to consolidate flow of funds. Firstly, to regulate the acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution or foreign hospitality. So first, they want to control, regulate acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution or foreign hospitality. Secondly, these regulate for certain individuals, association or companies. So they wanted to regulate for individuals, regulate for companies, and regulate for associations. Why they want to regulate? To prohibit acceptance of the foreign contribution and utilization of the foreign contribution. They want to regulate for acceptance of foreign contribution and utilization of foreign contribution or foreign hospitality. Why they have to do this? They have to do in the interest of the nation. Those which are detrimental to the interest of the nation, they wanted to control, they wanted to regulate. This is the whole object for which the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act has been brought in. Okay. Now with this object, let's move on. Whom FCRA will not apply? Now so far we said, before we go to FCRA definition, let us understand whom this FCRA will not apply. The FCRA will not apply to the two categories of, firstly, those institutions or association or a company or a public sector company where audit of the Auditor General, Controller of the Auditor General of India happens. Such institutions are exempted from applicability of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. That means those under the purview of the audit of the Auditor General of Controller of India, then such institutions, FCRA will not apply. Secondly, the transaction between the government with the foreign governments. So that means the government of India, say government of USA, the transaction between government to government, Foreign Contribution Regulation Act will. Except this, for every other person, Foreign Contribution Act will apply. Now, I presume that you all know the foreign contribution. What is foreign contribution? I presume that all of you are aware of this. To go with the fundamental, foreign contribution defined under Section 21H of the FCRA Act 2010. It is just a donation, delivery, or a transfer by any foreign source. And you have so many other limbs of that, but this is suffice. Delivery, donation, delivery, or a transfer by any foreign source will amount to foreign contribution. It is the broadest term that they have used. They have used in the broadest sense and in the widest amplitude. It sweeps everything. Delivery. The moment you deliver something from foreign source, trapped. Donation. If you receive a donation, voluntary contributions, but trapped under this. And even any transfer, look at that. It is the delivery, donation is something you can understand. Even a transfer, any transfer made by a foreign source, unless the exceptions are carved in the provisions of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, FCRA Act will apply and it amounts to foreign contribution. So one should be careful in understanding that. Now, having said that, in 2020, the Amendment of Foreign Contribution Amendment Act 2020 has brought substantial changes in the applicability of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. And some of the changes made goes to the root of the working of the many charitable trusts or institutions and NGOs. It goes to the root. So now I will just discuss each of the changes made so that how the further compliances can be made under the provisions of the FCRA Act. The first and the foremost changes they made is they brought the definition of public servant in Section 3. Section 3 deals with the situation. There is a prohibition to accept the foreign contribution. So section 3 has categorically enumerated who should not receive foreign contribution. That means those people are prohibited. They cannot accept foreign contribution. And in the enumerated list, you will find the government employee, government servant they have mentioned. Now they brought a change, public servant, because public servant is much more than the expression of the government servant. Those public servants, they are prohibited from accepting the foreign contribution. So what is a public servant? You have to go back to the definitions as contained in Indian Penal Code. The Indian Penal Code, you have to see the definition of a public servant. What is the section 25 of the Indian Penal Code says? It says, public servant is a servant who have been employed by, who have been authorized under the central or the state government or any public sector undertakings, etc. You have a long definition of the public servant. It would be suffice to understand those who have been authorized under the central or a state or a corporations of the central or the state, they are called the public servant. And these public servant cannot accept foreign contribution. So they must understand the reality of what is foreign contribution, whether they are violating the provisions of the FCRA Act. This is the first changes that they have made. They brought more broader words so that everything that it can speak. Because earlier they've used the word government servant, now they brought public servant. The second important changes made with regard to prohibition of transfer of foreign contribution under section 7. So what had happened? Let me give you the backdrop. What was the position prior to the amendment and what is the position post the amendment? See, prior to the amendment of this 2020 Act, any charitable trust or institutions or NGOs who have received the foreign, who have been registered or obtained a prior permission, received the foreign contribution and credited to the designated bank account, they can transfer to the another trust or institutions who have been registered under the provisions of the FCRA Act. That means, suppose A is an institution, big institution, they got 100 crores, and they have other smaller institutions, those registered under FCRA, they can give this 100 crores by way of foreign contribution to them. There was no prohibition. Because yesterday we spoke, there are 34 lakhs, out of which at least 85% depends upon the movement of the fund from the bigger institution to the medium institution to the smaller institutions. Because they have to survive. Because even the medium institution and smaller institution plays a significant role at the grassroots level. Because bigger institution cannot access to the grassroots level. Whereas the medium and smaller institution, they can access to the grassroots level, they can really contribute to the society. But now what has happened, and that is the first case. Those who have been registered, they can transfer the money, they can receive foreign currency. Secondly, those who have not been registered, but the donor, that is the bigger institution, they can, who have received the foreign contribution, they can take the prior approval from the Government of India, FCRA department, up to 10% of the foreign contribution they can give away to the institution who have not been registered. Instead of the smaller institution registering, they can take the permission from the FCRA department. These are the smaller institutions, these are the institutions, up to 10%, we will transfer the funds to them. It was legally allowed. Now, from 29th September 2020 onwards, law was changed. And the expression, the language using no person can transfer no person who have been registered or obtained the certificate of registration or the prior permission can who have received the foreign contribution can transfer to any other person. That means from 29th September onwards, once the foreign contribution received, once you have deposited into the designated bank account, from that bank account, you cannot transfer to anybody. As a result, what is the position with regard to medium institution? What is the regard to the smaller institution? They cannot receive foreign contribution. It has a big impact on the working of these medium and smaller charitable institutions. They can't afford to sustain. They cannot run. They don't have means. They don't have source of means to run. So Section 7 prohibits for transfer of foreign contribution. If you transfer the foreign contribution, it is a direct violation. So there are penal provisions, even certificate, the registration certificate can be cancelled or it can be suspended. So position after the amendment is very clear. The language is clear. The message is clear. The foreign contribution received by an institution cannot be transferred to any other person. They have used the word transfer. Okay. What is the meaning of transfer? This is important to understand. What is the meaning of transfer? I have a situation, position of vendor's payment. And I had to pay for service agreements. I had to pay payroll, salaries to the employees. From one bank account to another bank account, I will transfer, right? That is also called transfer. Vendor payment, I will make payment. Is it also transfer? Then what do you say for that? From bank account to bank account is moving, no? What is the meaning of transfer? I am asking. What is the meaning of transfer? Common parlance, if you understand, transfer from one to other. A to B, B to C is a transfer because shift from one to other. Correct? Can I make payment? Because vendors also you transfer. Other institution also you transfer. Suppose A institution transferring to B institution is a trust. Is it also transfer? Here is also transfer. Payroll I pay is also transfer. That exactly, you must tell where is it. I understand the logic, what you are all saying that. I'm not in doubt. But my question is, how do we interpret under the law? Can we go to the provisions and we should interpret through the provisions? Yes, this is the positions. I got up this issue because transfer. Maybe, but you are transferred. You are trapped under transfer. That's what I can say. So now, you have to apply the fundamental issues. Fundamental question, you have to go back to answer these questions. Logically, all of you are right. But fundamental test you have to apply to understand the meaning of transfer as contained in 7B. Because they use the word transfer in the definition of foreign contribution as occurring in section 21H, they use the word donation, delivery, or transfer from the foreign source. That transfer you cannot make. That means once you receive the money, you cannot transfer by way of foreign contribution to another institution. So when you pay for the services, either to the vendor or service agreements or to the salaries, you are paying them not as a foreign contribution because of the services they have provided to you. This comes under the commercial expediency, which are exempted under explanation 3 as well as section 4 of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. So as a result, the vendor payments, as a result, service agreements which you pay will not come within the meaning of restricted meaning of transfer. Restricted or the narrow meaning of transfer would apply only when the movement of transfer by means of foreign contribution. Clear? Better we'll talk later. It's on the video. Then comes back to the next important question. Administrative expense. Transfer. They use the word transfer. That means from one account to another account. Delivery, from one account to delivery means delivery something. I go physically. Sir, I am delivering you. See, delivery is the word used when there's a physical moments. Kind. So that means I'm giving you this. I'm delivering you. That's it. Of course, behind donation or foreign contribution, it always implies the principle without consideration. The moment there's the consideration, FCRA will not apply, FEMA will apply. See, that's the beauty of that. Without consideration comes here, with consideration goes to another end. So now, with this, who?
Any foreign contribution from that?
See, member in India, see, because the foreign contribution is nucleus. Whenever there is in the definition of foreign contribution, that donation, delivery, transfer by a foreign source. You must understand the meaning of foreign source by referring to section 21J. It says what is a foreign source. You have a long list. Okay? So from the foreign source, whether the money roots from the foreign source, that is the root, whether money received in India or from the foreign source. Not by way of currency. Suppose somebody gives an Indian currency, don't tell me that this is not a foreign contribution, because currency is immaterial. Firstly, somebody would receive by foreign remittances. It will be converted into Indian rupee. From the Indian rupee, it will be given to another institution. Still, it has the character of foreign contribution because foreign contribution is nucleus. So when the foreign national who gives it, foreign contribution. He may give an Indian rupee, foreign contribution. Because source is behind in defining whether it's a foreign contribution. Suppose we earn fees and pay. It is from the Indian source. It is not from the foreign source. Therefore, it is FCRA will not apply. This is a currency, you mean?
Digital cryptocurrencies, your Bitcoin.
Because now it is not a legal tender, isn't it?
It is not a legal tender, yeah, but
Yeah,
it is an asset, they say.
Still we are in the fluid stage to say whether it's legal or illegal. Let's wait for the RBI notification. They are already making an effort to bring it.
They are bringing a law, I believe. The law is also proposed.
I think so. So now we will move on to the administrative expenses. You know the history behind administrative expenses? You have to know. The administrative expenses, if you take the statistics, way from 1977, the administrative expenses incurred in India by the NGOs or the institutions was in the range of 20 to 22%. 20 to 22% in 1977. In 1987, this went up to 30 to 32%. Somewhere range on that. It's all estimation. Then in 97, 98, again there's one more survey I made. Then it went up to 42%. Then in 2007-8, it went up to 56%. So probably today it may be around 56 to 60%. That means administrative expenses. Look at how the law of charity works. Suppose you receive 100 rupees contribution. 15 rupees law allows you to keep aside. 85 rupees you have to spend. Out of 85 rupees, administrative expenses go 60 rupees. What is the charity you are doing? 25 rupees. Is it a charity? Somebody said, sir, employing people is also charity. We are creating a job creation. We are providing the job. We are paying the hefty salaries to give them comfort. Is it a charity? So, in fact, in 2003, in one of the forum, I cautioned, no doubt a day will come where ceiling is fixed for the administrative expenses. In 2003 itself, I think in Trichy, I have placed this on record. A day will come where maybe 2003 or 2007, I'm not sure. Ceiling will come, and because it's already in the note of the government, the way that the administrative expenses, one day restrictions will come. And I said the restriction may come under the FCRA Act as well as the Income Tax Act. In FCRA Act, the dream was fulfilled. They brought cap on expenditure on admin to the extent of 50%. That means you cannot incur administrative expenses beyond 50%. If you incur beyond 15%, you have to take the prior approval from the government of India. You must make a petition to them. Look, I'm spending much more than this. Please provide me our approval on this. Till such approval, you can't spend money. It's a prior approval. You make petition, you don't know when you will hear them back. But you are restrained, you can't spend. And what are the administrative expenses? You have to tell what are the administrative expenses, right? What do I incur, what do I not incur, do's and don'ts. Rule 5 of the FC Foreign Contribution Regulation Rules 2011 defines what is administrative expenses. It is not very exhaustive, but they brought so many things. Rent is treated as administrative expenses. And so many things that they have said, these are the administrative expenses. But it is not an exhaustive list. Nor the Ministry of Home Affairs have brought any specific circular in defining what is an administrative expense, what not, in specific. So this is the substantive gray area. At least 50% was allowed until 28th of September 2020. Quite substantial, no doubt about it. Thereafter, this administrative expenses has been brought down from 50% to 20%. Suddenly 30% is down. This was the problem for many NGOs who works as allied institutions. They were spending substantial money by way of rent, by way of salaries, payroll, and other things. Now they have to adjust to the congested environment that has been created from 29th of September. Either they have to ask the people to resign or move to the smaller place where expenses can be reduced. They have no choice. But the problem we have is with regard to understanding the concept of administrative expenses. With due respect, though the rule says about it, functionality of the organization has not been taken into consideration. See, because the functions of the NGOs is the most important. What area that you are doing, in what area that your activities are cornered. Under those areas, what is the substantive involved in that? Because you can't take everything rent as administrative expenses, right? There are certain areas which core functions are happening. Those core functions, people are sitting in the core function, people are sitting and working in the place where the core functions are happening. Should you call as an administrative expenses? If you go back to 1970s, there is a judgment of the Supreme Court with regard to computation of depreciation, building and plant and machinery. So Supreme Court said, even in the building where the plans were erected and commissioned and working of the place of the building, where the plans are there to be treated as plant and machinery, not as a building. If you amplify same principles over here, the core functions ought to be treated. But under Rule 5, no distinctions has been brought in. This is point one. Secondly, when you go to the costing, you know the principle, direct cost and the indirect cost. Direct cost means directly attributable to achieving the object. It goes directly to the projects. It may contain a varied of expenses like salaries and rental and other direct cost. And you have an indirect cost, more or less the indirect cost said to be an administrative expense. It may fall. But what happens to the direct cost? Here in the rule, this principal concept has not been. We are hoping the government of India may bring some circular relief, analyzing, because power is vested with them through the notification to clarify the matter. We are expecting on. Now, what are those Section 8 covers? Person who is registered granted a certificate or given prior permission under this act receive foreign shall utilize a contribution, any income. So they have brought what not all to be spent. Okay. Now the point is, suppose you far exceeds the limit. Now in the Section 8, two situations will arise. Because this law came into enforcement from 29th of September 2020. Till 29th September, 50% of administrative was allowed, post 20%. Okay? Now, can you bifurcate administrative expenses with regard to the foreign contribution prior to 28? And post 29, can you bifurcate? Because you have been incurring the expenses based on the foreign contribution, based on the administrative expenses as provided in Section 8. What is the situation? Because post has brought down 20%. Prior it was 50%. On the basis of the 50%, you are incurring the expenses. Can you bifurcate? And if you go to the annual return, it does not distinguish. It says, what is the administrative expenses incurred? So much. Because your income and expenditure or the receipts and payment says, this is the administrative expenses. Where the line of distinction prior to 28, 29, you are not making. As a result, it will far exceed the percentage that they provided under this. What happens? Either you should have taken the prior permission. Most of them, they might not have. They have not looked at it. They have no conceivable idea what happens. Now, in addition to that, what is the other penalty that you will face? Very important. if the administrative expenses far exceeds the limit as provided under section 8, that is beyond 20%, then you will be penalized an amount of rupees 1 lakh or 5% of the excess of the administrative expenses incurred over 20%. Suppose you have incurred the administrative expenses 35%, law provides you 20%. On that 15%, you have to pay 5% as a penalty, or 1 lakh, whichever is higher. And this is the penalty, it will just beeps on your screen. You have far exceeded because you can't, because it is automatic choice. Then immediately you have to compound. Unless you pay this money, you can't upload. First they say you pay, then come to me. At least income tax allow you to penalty, go to the tribunal, fight it and stay, all that. Here is not so. First you pay, then knock my door. Once you pay, you just forget that money. Because there's no question of refund from the Ministry of Home Affairs. What do you expect? Income tax department may refund. Right? This is the situation that you would encounter. So special attention to be paid. That's why you must educate your institutions to keep an eye on administrative expenses. You can't just take it for granted. Minute to minute, they have to compute and calculate how much that they can spend. They have to first make a budget and think loudly what percentage that they can do. When the foreign contribution dips, administrative expenses should be cut down at that point of time. If they far exceeds, then they'll be punished. But continuous of making a compounding payment of penalty 5%, what I said, it is also bad. The government looks, what is that you are doing? You are a charitable institution, once you compound it is okay. But every time you are coming back for compounding, right? Then what is this you are doing? Do you deserve to be given a registration? Shall we cancel the registration? Probably this may be the next course of thinking. So therefore, please inform your clients to keep an eye on the administrative expenses. In the course of the discussions, one of them came. They wanted to appoint a technical person, very hefty salary. They had a very big manpower consultants to hire them. They've engaged them. And the payment of recruitment expenses itself is about 3 crores. They asked me, no, we are hiring a very technical person and he is for a project. Without him, I can't run the project. I said, okay, fine. What is the issue? Recruitment expenses should be treated as project expenses. I said, how can you think broker payment is, you may say recruitment, I call it as it's a broker payment. After all, there's a manpower, he is only broking. He's a middleman who have arranged between these two institutions. You can't think that this is other than an administrative expense. It should be treated as an administrative expense. Then salary paid to CEO. What happens? What happens? Salary paid to CEO. Salary paid to CFO. CEO, CFO, COO. The new modern technical words. Not heard 20 years before. But after that it's happening. You call it a CEO. Now if the payment made to CEO is an administrative expenses. Finished. Salary paid to CFO, administrative expenses, finished. then COO, maybe administrator, or maybe project expenses, direct, because it's operations. Operation on the specific project. So CEO expenses is definitely attributed as admin expenses. This is the biggest chunk of the salary that you can find in the payroll list. So then each element, communication expenses, admin, internet expenses, admin. Now internet expenses nowadays is the cloud that you have to store. What happens to that? Cloud computing. Because most of them, because internet, they provide the bill, they think that it is internet charges, therefore entitled. But cloud computing is entirely different because it is the basic storage that is happening. Without the storage of this, you are in trouble. What do you call for it? That means some new research has to happen. So all the members join together to contribute. Each term, what it means and how it can be defined. Because this is just an illustration. Even section 8, what defines under the FCA foreign country regulation rules, is just an illustration but not an exhaustive list. Yes, Mr. Ramdhara.
Arrive at your administrative expenses based on your plan for the next year. So gross it up by 20%. So 100% will come. Ask the foreign guy to provide higher grant.
Now we are coming back to historical. You've already incurred. See, because 31st March 2021, you already finished. Correct? Now, of course, every institution should think, oh, whether administrative expenses. Now they are finding the means and saying that, oh, what is this function? Whether should be a direct cost, whether it's a project cost, is an administrative part? Because there's no solution to that. Even among the 5 professionals, you have 8 views. Some person may have 1 view and after 2 hours you will change the mind. Because there's no thick team provided.
Yes, sir, I agree, sir. Yesterday you mentioned that even accruals can be treated as application.
Correct.
Like that, we'll pass an accrual entry for.
No, now what happens in FCRA, receipts and payment is a best. They are little far ahead in our thinking. I'm sorry. They are far ahead of thinking. Okay. I agree with you, but they are far ahead. They said, what is your receipts and payment? Because you are attaching the receipts and payment. Based on the receipts and payment, you are capping these expenses and foreign country. So it's not really that easy. Now, whether pretense and all that, but you are on the default list. See, because the moment now software is built such that it immediately shows that your administrative expenses beyond this percent. Finished. So you had to pay compounding fees.
Yeah, that 1.5% we are willing to pay.
Yeah, 5%. Not
5% on the excess, sir.
on the excess.
So,
So
I am
that you have to pay.
Yes, sir.
But how long can you go on paying 5% excess?
At least
One
or-
time?
at least-
One time is okay. Because we are all human beings, bound to do mistakes. Exempted. Second time, okay, with some instructions. If every time happens, you are bound to be cancelled. Let me assure you that. Because there is a tolerance limit to some extent. You must follow what the rule says, not to bend the rules by payment of penalty and all that. They have to follow this. Now, another interesting issues. When you buy a capital asset, what do you say? Depreciation, what do you say? We welcome you.
Sir, FCRA is a receipt on current account, and therefore there is no need, it doesn't increase the external liability of the country. Therefore, I think if you receive more money through FCRA in dollars, that will help the country to have more dollar reserves, sir. So at least to that extent, the Home Ministry can encourage more.
So what you finally suggesting? Of course, increasing foreign exchange we welcome.
Yeah.
How do you do this?
So in that context, if ultimately it is going to be used for the charitable purpose intended by the
That
trust,
means you want them to be incentivized to get more and more money. Correct?
is my sufficient.
What is your message?
So quoting that as a ground, we can ask for condemnation is what I am suggesting.
That will. They say, have you followed my rule? Yes or no? They say, do you think that they don't know? They know.
Yeah.
Because if you deal with them directly, probably you will know. They say you just follow the rule. Don't try to educate me. We know our duty. What I said, these are the administrative 20%. Have you followed? That's all. That's it. So now, another interesting issue, because I have no answer to this, I'm placing before all of you to get solution. When you spend on the capital asset, what do you say? You say it's admin expense. You say project expense. You are all sitting here providing AC. Assuming to be a charitable institution, this, of course, it is. Is it admin expense or project expense? Here. See the beauty of problem, how we are facing day by day. Then depreciation arising on this. What is the position? I don't think there is any imminent answer to this. The capital asset will be treated entirely different footing. It will not come within the definition of administrative expenses. That is but sure. Payment will not capture depreciation because it is a notional expenditure. So notional expenditure, therefore, it will not. I'm clear. You have something to ask me?
Yes, sir. Can the government not define what are administrative expenses they are willing to allow? Going from the other side. I don't know, somebody has made a memorandum. You define to us what exactly we can spend as administrative, then there will be no dispute. Otherwise, every time you have an expense, you have to keep asking them, they will give you no reply. I do not know if this is possible, sir.
I agree with you because this is the one of the grayest area and most of us are getting affected.
Because every time otherwise a new expense
Definitely,
comes.
I agree with you, 100%, no doubt. That's the reason people at the helm of the affairs have to have direct dialogue with the government,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
listening them, talking to them.
How does the government want this foreign
We
contribution to
should
be spent?
understand the mind, no?
Mind of the government.
Suggest.
Correct.
This is what is the best way to do.
Correct. How does the government want to spend this money? Because there could be trouble for us because there's a drug funding, terror funding, all this is happening. You can't blame the government.
Of course, government
There
is
are
right,
serious,
because they have to
serious risks.
control.
Serious risks involved, sir.
Yeah, definitely, because in the interest of the nation,
Nation,
like
security.
all of us should cooperate on it. Absolutely, no
Absolutely.
doubt about it.
So I think it's time,
That is the prime importance, the national security.
maybe the institute and people like you, sir, should be able to start a dialogue with the
If at
government.
all invited, okay?
Thank you.
As you said, the nation interest is the utmost. Nothing to be compromised. No doubt about it. Let us compromise. Keep the check of administrative expenses. So now the next aspect is FCRA bank account. This is another biggest crisis it went to. What was the position prior to the amendment? You are at liberty to open designated bank account in any bank, nationalist bank. You are at liberty, go. You can go to Citibank, you can go to State Bank of India, Canara Bank, any bank. Only it should be a designated bank account, because the requirement was that any foreign contribution at one point of time, only one bank account was allowed. That one bank was called as a designated bank account. So before making an application for either the prior permission or the registration, you have to open the bank account without depositing the money. Because the moment you deposit the money in that account, it means it's a violation. Without depositing the money, you have to open the bank account called designated bank, called FCRA bank account. And this FCRA bank account you have to mention in the application, so that when the permission comes from the FCRA department, you have to credit all the foreign contribution to this bank account only. No multiple bank account were allowed. Then hue and cry happened, because many institutions, they have spread geographically in the different areas. Suppose one bank account, one in Bangalore, somebody is operating in Mysore, somebody is operating in other areas, somebody operating in Chennai, they have a problem. Logistically, that it was creating a problem. Then this hue and cry was taken care of by the ministry. They said, okay, you open one bank account called designated. You can open utilization account in any bank for your convenience. Any number of multiple utilization bank account you can open. Suppose you have one designated bank account in Bangalore, open utilization account in Chennai or in Delhi or any other place, any number of banks. But you have to take approval from the ministry. You open, intimate by filing the prescribed form. They will have a note which are the bank account. Second condition was the utilization of all foreign contributions should come to only FCRA bank account. From the FCRA bank account, you may transfer to utilization account for the purposes of utilizing this money. Suppose somebody is working in the remote area, somebody is working in semi-rural area, where they have to spend money, they can draw. Then in 2016-17, there was a hue and cry happened, because some of the banks did not satisfy the requirement of the FCRA. Ministry of Home Affairs said, you have to move only certain criteria set banks, not all banks. Then what happened? In 2020, they said, they scrap all that. You have to open the designated bank account only State Bank of India, New Delhi, the two particular branch only. So all the 24,000 registered associations with the ministry under the FCRA department has to open in New Delhi only. So this law came into notified on 29th of September. And hue and cry again came. Should we travel to Delhi to open the bank account? Then ministry said, don't worry. You approach the local bankers, State Bank of India, tell them that you want to open. They will cooperate, they will help. To understand this requirement, from September to December it went. The moment we asked the local bank, sir, we have to open website. I said, why? They don't know. No, maybe. So now, as a result, to understand the intricacies, it lasts about 2 months. Then you submit some application here. Half of them they communicate to New Delhi. They come back, this document is there, this document is there, this is not there, that is not there. Again, lots of stuff. In the meantime, those who were in Delhi, they're quite smart enough. They have opened very fast. Those in the other states, trailing behind. Semi-urban areas, bad. Rural areas was hopeless. Because accessibility, no. They had approached on the State Bank of India. Can't do anything. Anyway, finally, 31st March 2021, they have extended. You open. We give you grace time, you open. Then they have extended up to 30th June. If you look at the website, out of 25,000 institutions, 7,000 institutions still far behind in opening the bank account. Either one reason or the other. Who is at fault? We don't know. Now, 20th, that means 1920 annual return was supposed to be filed by 31st of December 2020. Has been there is a requirement in the circular says you have to mention State Bank of India account in that annual return. And they said 31st December filing has been extended to 30th June. And now the 7,000 institutions don't have a State Bank of India bank account, but the time for filing the annual return has elapsed by 30th June. Now, once you receive the approval, State Bank of India, then you have to file an application to the ministry in a prescribed form. And you also have to mention utilization account. Existing bank account can be used as a utilization account. Again, it will go to them. They have to send formal approval. Again, it takes time. It's not instantaneous. Now, these are the institutions where they have elapsed filing of annual return. Now, if you want to upload, now everything is intact now. You have opened fantastically State Bank of India account. You got the approval, but you wanted to file with a smile annual return. It says pay penalty. Either 1 lakh or 5% of the foreign contribution you receive. This the institution, they never budgeted. They don't have a source. What do? Unless you pay, you cannot upload annual return. That is the predicament most of the institutions are suffering. Suppose you continuously default in filing annual return. A letter will come, show cause notice, and after the show cause notice, your license will be cancelled under Section 14. What do we do?
This Amnesty International, does it find a place in that 7,000 list?
No, let us not mention that. It's not fair to talk about that. Okay. So, now it's clear. Now, those of your clients where you have not uploaded, if you go there, you will get a shocker. Without payment of penalty, you cannot upload. The moment auditor says to the client, sir, you have to pay penalty without that, they will say, you are at fault. You have to tell me the consequences that would follow having not opened a bank account? What you people will tell? No, I agree.
They are jet setting transatlantic. They are traveling every now and then. Can they not park themselves in Delhi for a week or a month, submit all the documents, open the account and take it as a project to open the bank account and come back to Bangalore or Mysore, is it so difficult,
No,
sir?
no, see, no. Yeah, see, your institutions is far advanced. That makes the difference. But not all. Say small and medium institutions, you can't expect them to go sit in Delhi, spend money. Say, this is practical. Otherwise, why 7,000 institutions were lagging behind?
Really wonder.
Even lagging behind. Anyway, at the moment, let us think there was a delay. The genuineness of circumstances to be examined case to case basis, whether bank at fault or the institution at fault. Whatever the delay, they have to pay penalty. If they don't pay penalty, they will not be allowed to upload. And it is compounded. It is compounded. Already there.
Court,
Already there. In Delhi High Court, at least 12 petitions has been filed. And in one of the case, they have taken it up. They heard everything, but they have adjourned the case. Because even the petitioner who have said, he did not contest that this is unreasonable.
you can file it before Justice Murali there or some other this.
No, any court, the
They
jurisdiction
will
High Court that
immediately
they
say this is against fundamental rights.
already is happening. In Maharashtra, they filed a case. Writ petitions has been filed. And in Delhi, they have filed. Gujarat, they have filed. But till you reach the finality, time elapses. By then, your accounts will be blocked. Once the account is blocked, you can't do your website, you can't do anything. Then you have to take permission again. It's not that easy. We talk, it's not that simple.
If the intended purpose for which the charitable institution had been found would not serve the intended community and the community has not felt the pinch, it is very clear that the charitable institutions, whether it serves or not,
Yeah.
it's a matter to be debated.
Now, that is a different matter. That's altogether a different matter. But under the FCRA Act, if it is not discharged payment, you can't file an return. If there is a continuous default on that, consequences are very deterrent. This is the position. So now, bank account, you can have utilization account, you have to take the approval. Now, under the Amendment Act, it is very clear you can open only designated bank account in State Bank of India alone in New Delhi branch, nobody else. Then comes Aadhaar, PAN, and OCI and all that. I think there's a spelling mistake is there. Now they have made it Rule 12A, Section 12A, which makes it mandatory. Which makes it mandatory to provide Aadhaar card. Copy of the Aadhaar card has to be given. And in respect of this applies to the directors, office bearers, or the key functionaries. That means you have to provide an Aadhaar card. If it is a person of Indian origin or person of foreign national, you can take passport. If you are Indian origin but becomes a non-resident Indian or a foreign national subsequently with a OCI card, you have to furnish. Now without the Aadhaar card, even renewal will not happen. So now these documents are a must and it has become a mandatory requirement. Okay. So what time we have a break? 11:30. Okay. Now the person to furnish this document, as I said, office bearers, directors, or key functionaries. Suppose you have dozen directors all of them to give. There's no exception. And if you look at, and in addition to that, they are brought in 2019. Affidavit has to be furnished because in 2019, the amendment rules of 2019, they brought some more requirement that every institution who have been registered, either at the time of seeking the prior approval or at the time of the renewal of the registration, they have to file an affidavit, and affidavit is in AAA form. And you must read the contents of this affidavit. I will just take that. Somebody has seen that affidavit, isn't it? Seen that affidavit in AAA form? There is a AAA form, affidavit has been brought. Now all the key functionaries have to furnish this affidavit duly notarized. And the contents of this AAA form that there is no violation under the provisions of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act. And if they know any violation, they will immediately bring to the notice of the FCRA department. And you are swearing through an affidavit. So that if it is proved you have a prior knowledge, you have a knowledge, but you are not intimated to the department, be prosecuted. Now in most of the charitable trust NGOs, very honorary trustees, they come. But now they have to take the onerous of this affidavit. Okay. I think I will discuss more after the tea break on this requirement of the affidavit. It's very important. So we will adjourn for the tea break now. All right. Thank you.
Can a public servant be a trustee of FCRA registered organization?
See, the public servant, now they have brought in the definition of section 13. He is associating with a registered organization, probably it prohibits under section 3. Because plainly reading, that public servant is prohibited from accepting the foreign contribution under section 3. But there is a guideline, they have to take the prior approval from the government if they have to become any trustee of any other organization. So there are two links. One is public servant receiving the foreign contribution. Secondly, public servant being associated as a trustee in other organization. He wanted to be a trustee of other organization. I think he has to take permission and then he can become a trustee of the organization.
Yeah, the next question. Is it the right way to disclose the amount of foreign contribution utilized during the year as income in the computation of income than the actual contribution received, which is disclosed in the receipts and payment account?
See, as far as FCRA is concerned, receipts and payments is a document which will be relied upon. So how much money that you received, how much money you have utilized, what for that you have utilized. Again, you have to segregate utilization for the projects and utilization for administrative expenses. These are the considerations to be looked into. And even the auditors who have to give a certificate, it starts with the opening balance of the foreign contribution received during the year, utilized during the year, and balances. And these balances have to be matched with the receipts and payment, the balance account.
Yeah, the third question, can get service from other FCRA institution and pay against service from another FCRA institution. Is that okay?
See, services are entirely excluded from the FCRA. But now, because of the prohibition they have brought for under section 7, most of them would be resorting to this service. Probably it may lead to a scanner. They may look into deeply whether are you providing a services or in the name of services are you getting the grant will be examined thoroughly.
The next question, as per rule FCRR 2011, expenses like repairs and stationery are to be considered as administrative. How should this be treated in case of NPO, which is providing a medical relief and education service? Can they consider these expenses as expenditure in furtherance of the object and shall not consider this as admin?
See, as you must bound to follow what the rule prescribed. There are many gray areas in this regard. I have discussed in length here. And even for this rule 5 will apply to all the institutions who have been registered or the prior permission has been obtained. Whether it's a medical institution or it is an education institution or providing advancement of public utility and all that. So there's no para distinction between the kind of institutions as they are. So now as per the rule 5, they say this has to be categorized as administrative expenses which have to be considered.
And the same answer may be continuing, but the question again repeating, what about mobile health unit, vehicle running cost, whether admin or program expenses?
See, travel expenses and logistics expenses will be treated as admin expenses.
No, this may not be the travel or
No.
logistic. This is the mobile unit. There itself the equipment.
No, I understand, but this was not conceived in the rule 5. They said travel expenses to be treated. So travel expenses is movement, the logistics. Of course, they have a mobile van where they go from place to place and all that. I think they may take the view, but in the rule, you don't find a place.
No, the mobile vehicle itself is the hospital or the facility for.
In my view, of course, but
should
not
be allowed.
under Rule 5. Because I have not specified.
Okay. Then how to calculate admin expenses, including capex and depreciation?
See, the capex expenses, see, now they are not bothering about the capex expenses. I've also said that. Now they have to take what foreign contribution they've received, and from the foreign contribution, how much administrative expenses, they have to work out the percentage. That means so much administrative expenses divided by the foreign contribution, arrive the percentage. If it is well within the limit of 20%, then there's no issue. Beyond 20%, penal provisions will apply.
So this depreciation, there is no outflow of money, so not be taken
Correct.
while calculating.
Absolutely. That is what we said also.
So while filing the ITR, there is a requirement to disclose the amount spent towards the object. So should the non-FCRA books of accounts maintained should be in line with the FCRA books of accounts, or our assumptions in considering the admin and program expenses can be different for IT filing, as there is no ceiling limit on admin expenses for the contribution received locally.
See, there are under the provisions of the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, you have to maintain separate books of account for the foreign contribution, the FCRA books, and the local contribution that you receive. You have to maintain separate books of account. The admin capex, that means the overall, the ceiling fix is only for foreign contribution that you have received. This will not apply to the local. Suppose you have a local funding where you spend administrative expenses, for exceeds 20%, there is no issue at all. Because for FCRA would apply only for the foreign contribution where you have maintained separate books of account. Now, as far as the ITR is concerned, of course, you cannot bifurcate two as a FCRA account and the local account, because you are merging together, you are consolidating. When you are consolidating, you will show the project expenses in ITR 7, you show separately the administrative expenses. There, the totality of the administrative expenses will come. But in case of the annual return, Form 4 of the FCRA Act, you are showing only the administrative expenses as required under the FCRA Act.
Next question, can a retired teacher from an aided school drawing pension still be on the board of FCRA registered entity?
No, he can be. There's no issue at all. No issue on that. Go ahead, Preeti.
Rule 5 doesn't talk about bank charges, right? So how do you treat
Pardon?
bank charge? Rule 5 of the admin expense, that doesn't consider bank charges, right? So that will be treated as admin expense or project.
Definitely administrative expenses. They said they have mentioned charges. Other charges and all that, even interest also will come.
Yes, sir. There are many questions in Q&A. The first one is there any way to escape from the penalty for delay in submission of annual FCRA returns financial year 1920?
They can escape after payment of penalty.
Okay.
Not otherwise.
Excellent. Same question. Repeated, yeah. Is service fee paying to another FCRA registered organization allowed under FCRA? I think it is answered already.
I already answered.
Yeah. Is there any monetary limit for obtaining registration under FCRA?
In case of registration, in the form which prescribes Rule 3A, at least you should have spent 50 lakhs on the project, excluding the administrative expenses. And this 50 lakhs will be reckoned for the 3 preceding years. So that means you should have received the project money, you should have spent 50 lakhs, not the foreign contribution. If you have obtained the prior permission, you can. If not, The local funding you should have spent minimum benchmark of 50 lakhs. You cannot. You are not eligible. Not eligible. See, most of them, it comes through the forum, which there is a column. Did you spend a 50 lakhs? If not, not eligible. Form 38 contains that.
And the reimbursement from foreign contribution account is allowed. Such expenses spent from local account due to delay in receipt of foreign contribution. Services rendered for the project towards accounting services, rent, etc.
Now they have mixed too many questions in one. One is the reimbursement. This is the universal problem faced in India because the timing of funding, local as well as FCRA, there is a gap. So they have to meet the expenditure. Therefore, they will rush back to the local fund. They spend the money. Whereas in the budget of the FCRA, they would have shown these expenses, which takes time. So now once they spend the money, they cannot pass inter-unit adjustment in either of the books. If they pass inter-unit adjustment, they are mixing the books of account. Therefore, it directly violates the provisions of the FCRA. What they can do at these circumstances is they can go with a capital fund adjustment which is allowed in the respective balance sheet so that you have to nullify.
Sir,
Yeah.
20% of administration expenses to be calculated on foreign contribution received.
Correct.
Foreign contribution received includes corpus as well as other than corpus.
Foreign contribution you can't receive as a corpus
Okay.
because foreign contribution is directly. Very interesting issues have come. One of them received 10 crores from the Hong Kong. And the documentary evidence which they have said, this should be held towards the corpus. And interest earned out of this corpus should be utilized for furtherance of the object. The point is, under the FCRA, can you receive a corpus fund? Because corpus fund terms are familiar under the Income Tax Act, not under the Foreign Contribution Act. Foreign contribution talks about only foreign contribution. So foreign contribution received to be utilized for the purpose or the grant for which you have received. So therefore, the corpus funding of the FCRA should be avoided as much as possible because it doesn't recognize us.
If we have already received as a corpus,
Now they have already received, they have already notified. Better that you should status quo maintain. But in future, you have to utilize foreign contribution, you have to spend the foreign contribution. That's all. Receipt, receiving money, utilization of money. There ends the matter. Yes, next question, Mr. Sri.
Next question, when a foreign citizen has an immovable property in India and he has no objection that an NGO using it as its office, will notional amount equivalent to fair rent accounted for as donation? If it is allowed, will it be a FCRA donation?
Is it from the foreign source?
No, it is.
They have to check. Property was created from foreign source? Yes. Any something accruing to this is a foreign contribution called as secondary recipient under the FCRA.
Here
Therefore,
again, there is no will for that this regard. This is just a goodwill gesture. He is giving it as a
no, when there is a goodwill gesture, why are they paying rent?
rent. Again, they are not paying. It is just
Deemed.
accounted. It's a nominal.
Whatever the nominal, it is amounting to. So now there is a property of the foreign national. He's allowed this charitable institution to use these premises. Now, these premises, when it is used by this institution, the relationship, because it is from the foreign source, it comes under the clutches of the foreign contribution. Okay. Now he has given a right to use this property. Okay. Secondly, what is the value of this right to use? This right to use value is not amounting to the foreign contribution as a secondary recipient. It has to be shown.
NGOs are permitted to open SB account and earn interest on SB account. Say, will keeping the amount not spent during the year in SB account satisfies prescribed mode of investment under section 11.4?
Yeah, of course, in 11.5, that bank account what you have, either in current account or SB account, is one of the forms of mode that they have specified.
If Aadhaar is not available, then is OCI accepted?
In case of foreign national, it is an option. If Aadhaar is not there, either the PAN card or the OCI card can be given.
Under the category of FCRA registration, educational, social, economic, religious, cultural, etc., under what head will environment protection be registered for economic or social?
I think it can be considered as economic.
Economic.
It comes under the following both social and economic also.
Without registration, can foreign contribution be received?
Prosecution may be launched.
Prosecution. Invited.
1,000 rupees gift.
Who all covered under?
1,000 rupees.
Yeah, sorry. Who all covered under chief functionaries under FCRA?
Repeat the question, sir.
Who are all considered as chief functionaries under FCRA?
Chief functionaries are those functionaries who have been named and authorized as a chief functionary. That is, board of trustees or the board of a company will authorize that so and so is a chief functionary. Therefore, he is called as a chief functionary. Oh, still you have so many questions.
No, this from chat box, I think we covered already, last one or two. TDS receivable from the government, but refund not received. If we write off such receivable, can we treat it as admin expenses? And where shall we show it
No.
in FCRA annual return?
See, these expenses can be make a intra adjustments to the capital fund. Either show as an asset. If not, even though you show that as an expense, because normally most of them will debit to the income and expenditure account also. But better, you can capitalize through the capital fund. That is also possible. But it will not be treated as admin expenses.
If no foreign contribution received during the year, how to calculate admin expenses out of amount utilized from erstwhile year balance?
If the foreign contribution not received, if you have incurred administrative expenses, then it is amounting to infinity. What is the percentage? So now foreign funding and administrative expenses, there is a nexus. So they cannot incur administrative expenses if it is not so.
During the year, they have not received. However,
No,
they
I know they have
loss of
opening
fund was there.
balance, they have a fund balance. As per the definition, you cannot say, you can take an argument. Look, I have unfinished, therefore the funds were lying there, I utilized. That is an argument we can make. But as far as this FCRA and the annual return is concerned, it will not recognize.
I think we have covered. Here, I think.
The 85% comes under for FCRA and under the Income Tax Act, not in FCRA.
So here there is no minimum amount that needs to be spent in a year.
No.
Okay.
But if you show that no amount spent 1 or 2 years, registration will be cancelled because you are not carrying any activity. Okay. So I thank all of you. I think I'm sorry, Mr. Jatin Christopher. I took little of his time. I encroached upon his time. Okay. I may be excused. Okay. I thank all of you, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suresh sir, for your kind gesture and clarifying all the doubts. And 2 days, you have been a great support for this conference. Huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, once again. As a token of gratitude, I request Chairman sir to kindly come forward and present a small token of appreciation to our speaker. A round of applause, please. Thank you so much.